Craig, looks like you're muted.
Good morning.
Good morning. So it looks like you hit start broadcast. So there's no waiting room. If people do come into this, they'll be able to hear us and hear what we're talking about. So just so
Okay.
you know, we could
Okay.
always end this and restart if you would like to. Otherwise, we'll just kind of be here waiting for attendees.
Okay.
And I just kind of started talking at you. I'm Rick Collins from IFAI. So
All
good
right.
to meet you.
Good to meet you as well. Do I need to have my camera on, or does it matter?
They're preferring to have cameras on. So if you could do that, that'd be great.
All right. Now, how do I do that?
There is a little button that looks like a camera icon on the GoToWebinar control panel there.
Okay, it's green. It is green, but I think it's captured by the wrong camera. So let me see if I can change that. Preferences. There we go.
Yep, I see you.
All right.
All right. And then do you have a deck or a presentation you're going to share as well?
I do.
All right.
So let's see. Show. How exactly do I share my?
Yep. So there's a sharing tab on that GoToWebinar deal, and you could choose show. Hold on.
Okay, I got it open. So it's saying show screen, and so I hit the play button, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it. Now I can see your whole screen there.
You can. Okay. So if I want to share just one window.
Yep. So on that show screen arrow that you hit earlier,
Yeah.
there was a drop down below it.
Got it.
Arrow, and you could choose which app to share.
Got it. So can you see my PowerPoint?
Yep. If you could just hit play on your PowerPoint, because sometimes that opens a new window, and you might need to share that new. You know what I mean?
Play on my PowerPoint.
Yeah, like you're gonna present up in the title bar.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I see it. That worked.
Okay.
Just depending on how you shared, sometimes that doesn't show that. So.
Now, are you still able to see my face?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. I just was in the GRS IBS one, so I think I have an idea for how the interplay works.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea how many people signed up for this?
I do not. Let me check here. We got a million tabs open. Okay, here we are. Looks like there's 5 registered through this GoToWebinar interface. I know that sometimes doesn't match up with the actual event registration. You know what I mean? It's a little bit different. So. And attendees have started to come in. So.
Okay.
And I'll be sitting in, and I'm just going to put myself on mute now, but if you need anything, I'll be here.
Okay. It's 12:30 though, right?
Correct.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are. We're just waiting a couple more people to trickle in and we'll get started here. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Craig Bell. I am General Manager for Strata Systems. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about fence foundations and their consideration in conjunction with segmental retaining walls. Should be a 15-minute presentation or so. So if there are any questions, I'll stick around to answer, and you can always use your chat feature to post them throughout the presentation. So we're going to get started. So today we'll touch on the code compliance in relation to fence posts and the foundation and segmental retaining walls, some of the design options, our pre-engineered fence anchoring solution, which is a Sleeve It SD1. Oop, go back. And touch on the testing and the specification, the properties, and some of the things that the features and benefits. And of course, we'll go through the installation. I will tell you that you're all welcome, of course, to log on to our website. That's www.geogrid.com, and also visit our homepage here at the Geo Show. We have a Sleeve It video that's quite interesting around the installation for Sleeve It. So let's dive right in. The code, the IBC code specification for Sleeve It is really two parts. It's IBC section 1015.2 and IBC section 1607.8.1. 10152 talks about a 30-inch grade separation. When you have a 30-inch grade separation, that a handrail or post is required. And then you switch down to 1607.8.1, that fence post needs to be strong enough to resist a 50-pound per foot linear load. So these two things work in conjunction with one another and make the need for the fence post or the handrail to withstand these forces. Well, why is that important? Well, because when we're not taking into consideration the loading on a fence post or a handrail, this type of thing can happen. In this particular project, the solution was to bolt a wrought iron fence directly to the capstone for a segmental retaining wall. Now you can probably imagine it doesn't take much loading to make this fail, and this is a considerable failure. There's other options, of course. One option, certainly, and this is code compliant, you can create a buffer zone between the wall face and the fence foundation. The NCMA best practices manual recommends having a 3-foot offset from the wall face to the fence foundation. And that allows you to meet the code, that 50 pound per linear foot. As you can imagine, there's some issues around that though, and it's created the opportunity for a pre-engineered fence foundation system. In this particular case, that 3-foot offset creates some issues, and we'll touch on those in a minute. But here's that in play, and you can already see what some of these issues might be. In this particular case, with the picture on the left, of your screen, the fence is placed 3 foot back from the face of the wall. And to minimize maintenance, they've placed stone directly behind the wall and in between the fence and the wall itself. Not the most aesthetically pleasing solution, but nonetheless, you know, it works. But you've also created an area that's, you know, still a fall hazard. Kids are going to get in behind that wall, in between the fence and the wall, and you still have some issues. Here's another example of that. And some of the other issues, obviously, you're losing real estate when you are placing the fence 3 foot back from the wall face. There's safety concerns, as I mentioned, maintenance issues. And the other thing, during installation, the contractor's having to compact behind the segmental retaining wall in and around the geosynthetic layers, and also having to contend with either a cardboard tube that's going to be filled with concrete, and there's real compaction issues around that. So there's other options. Another option here that's shown is grouting the top few courses of block if the block is hollow, or doing the same and right behind the block, pouring concrete right behind the block. Well, of course, that's going to be very expensive. And on top of that, it's also going to create a rigid element into a flexible structure, which kind of defeats the purpose of the segmental retaining wall. Segmental retaining wall is meant to be a flexible structure. It often requires an independent review and design. Certainly can be costly. And there's always this notion of having different trades, having to work on the same structure, and that requires coordination. And as I mentioned, it creates this rigid element. There are different block systems out there. There's a lot of them, and each one has different nuances about them. And so grouting some blocks is an option, while with others, you have to be in between them and directly behind them. It really just does depend on the geometry of the block itself. So as we saw, bolting a wrought iron fence to the top of a segmental retaining wall is not a good option. It's easily failed. And the other option here that you see is coming back after the fact. The wall's been installed, and the fence contractor comes in and says, "I'll have to put my fence in, but there's been no accommodation for my fence post or handrail." Well, in those cases, they're augering through the compacted fill, through the geosynthetic layers, and that creates all sorts of problems. Not only is it difficult to do when you're going through compacted granular fill, but you have the possibility of catching that geogrid and pulling the wall, and creates all sorts of headaches that are there potentially. So who is responsible? Is it the contractor? Is it the landscape architect, fencing contractor, the engineer? Well, Sleeve It, our pre-engineered fence anchoring solution, addresses all that. It's been fully tested, code compliant, and it really does address the need for some thought ahead of time as to how to incorporate the fence or handrail behind a segmental retaining wall. As we discussed earlier, the IBC code, 50 pounds per linear foot on the fence post or handrail. In many cases, we've seen in the past non-code compliant solutions just putting a sonnet tube right behind the blocks of the retaining wall for the top, let's say the top 3 courses as shown here. That is not code compliant. We've tested it and it does not work. So the Sleeve It has a cantilever design to it. It's an L-shaped base, and it engages the soil mass directly behind the wall and and provides that resisting force to protect the wall face from deflection, and it engages that soil mass to do so. In our testing, basically what we've done is taken the sleeve it, built our mock wall, placed our fill, installed our fence post, and then loaded a hydraulic jack at 42 inches high on the fence post or handrail, and started loading it until failure. That is precisely how we tested it. Failure is basically displacement of the wall face itself, any more than it's subjective to some degree, but displacement more than a couple inches is really failure. So this is what we've seen in our testing of the cardboard tube or sonotube versus the sleeve it product. The sonotube, when placed 6 inches back from the wall, is failing at about 100 pounds, and the sleeve it is outperforming, far outperforming. So the 200-pound concentrated load is assuming you have fence posts or handrails placed in 4-foot spacing. So there's your 50 pounds per linear foot. The previous version of Sleeve It was the Sleeve It 1224R. Good system, required some assembly on site. The Sleeve It SD1, which is our newer system, is a one-piece unit, and actually outperforms in terms of our testing the Sleeve It 1224R. Although that was a good system, it just required that assembly on site. We've solved some real headaches for the contractors out there by launching the SD1 product. Here's the specification showing the Sleeve It in and behind the segmental retaining wall. Oops, what happened there? Apologies. In behind the segmental retaining wall, placed directly behind the blocks. It's tapered, so it's accounting for the setback of the segmental retaining wall. There's obviously different setbacks for different retaining wall systems, so you have to account for that. But it does a good job, as far as accommodating that setback. It's filled with concrete. And again, you can see there the shape, it's an L-shaped design, and it's engaging that soil mass. When you do have geogrid layers that are intersecting the Sleeve It system, as with any other penetration of geosynthetic reinforced structure, the geogrid can simply be cut to fit, and it'll accommodate it. Here's the unit itself. You can see it has a tower approximately 23.4 inches tall. It sits back into the reinforced zone 30.6 inches. It does have a perforated lid, which protects it during construction. Once the fence contractor is ready to install the fence post, they arrive on site. Typically, it could be weeks and months, if not months, after the sleeve it's been installed or in the walls completed construction. They simply knock out the perforated lid, place their fence post handrail, and pour concrete. It is recommended to use concrete inside the Sleeve It system. So the features and benefits: it's code compliant, it maximizes land use, it's stackable, portable, easy to install, and compatible with most fences. It is made of 95% post-consumer polypropylene, so it's definitely a green product. And yeah, it's we've seen it really be embraced by consulting engineers as a great solution for a fence foundation with segmental retaining walls. It benefits all: specifiers, developers, wall designers, contractors, and fence contractors. Fence contractors in particular really like this product when it's specified and used. It solves a lot of headaches for them as they come back to a project where they know they're going to have to install a fence on top of it, or a handrail on top of the segmental retaining wall. Just run through quickly the installation process. You can see we're 2 feet down or 24 inches down from grade, and we start to consider what we're going to do for our segmental retaining or for our fence foundation. Place the sleeve-it unit and you slide it forward to the back of the block, depending on which segmental retaining wall system you're using. You'll have to account for the setback. Begin your backfilling process just like you would with any segmental retaining wall. Cut the geogrid around the unit as required, and continue to fill and compact in the specified lifts till you get to the top of the unit or to grade. After the wall is complete, the fence contractor comes in and knocks out the lid, places the fence post, and pours the concrete. That's it for us. That's the sleeve-it unit. That's our fence foundation system. Certainly, just want to share some info on the Strata team. We have our market managers. Janice Reed is our market manager for the southern region. Scott Shefsky is the manager for the east, and Nate Keller is in the west. I'm the general manager. My name's Craig Bell again, and Mike Bernardi is our director of engineering. We're all available for questions and any projects that come up. We'd be happy to assist. But again, thank you so much for your attention during this webinar, and happy to field any questions, or if not, that's okay too. We'll please take note of our contact info and ask questions anytime that they might come up. Thanks so much.